I left social media a little over 6 months ago, almost 7 months ago now, and it was all a type of experiment to see what it looks like for me to build an online company and brand without social media. I just felt like it was having this negative impact on my mental landscape. It was taking up way too much of my time and creating like comparison and distraction from building the life and business that I want. And so in this episode, I want to share a 6 at this point 7 month update on this experiment, my takeaways, and my advice. You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. Welcome back in. I'm so excited about this topic because it feels so relevant. It feels more relevant to this work that I'm here doing now more than ever. I'm really enjoying this pillar, this intersection between skincare and wellness and digital minimalism as like one of the pillars that I talk about because I'm feeling the results of my breakup with phone addiction in such a big way in my body, which of course is going to translate to skin health because your skin is part of your body. It's not some separate entity or island. And the space your mind is in is also not some separate moment. It's all connected. So I'm really loving bringing this into my work because it matters. Phone addiction will age you. And we don't even have to be as dramatic as addiction, even though I think that word is pretty relevant for many. Let's just say chronic phone use and screen time will accelerate aging. That feels pretty accurate. And let's see. So this is the part where I let you know that if you're enjoying this episode, if you like the lens I take on skincare, make sure to head to the link in the description and sign up for my weekly newsletter. It's called Moon Day Notes. It's my weekly love letter straight to your inbox every Monday where I talk about true holistic skincare. I talk about herbalism, seasonal, nature-based living, all things connected to those topics. I love my newsletter. It has a very high readership rate. People always reply telling me how much they love it. So I think you'll love it as well. So go sign up. But oh my God, it's been 6 months, 7 months since I started this little experiment where I step away from Instagram and TikTok, both personally and professionally. I didn't have a very big, or I don't have a very big TikTok presence. So that was more just like stepping away from doom scrolling all the time. But for Instagram, it was a place where my business lived and interacted with the world. And then I also have a personal account where I would share my life and keep up with friends. And I will say, I have a confession to share. I actually did log back onto Instagram the other day. I guess it was yesterday morning. I got an email that was like, there's someone trying to change your password. So I thought I would go in and change my passwords just in case. And the moment I got back on, I just started to feel the yuck. It felt like Vegas is all I could think about when I got back on there. It's just like so weird and artificial and loud. And just being away from that for so long and then being exposed to it again, I think all of that is so amplified. And I saw this guy who I follow and I was like, oh yeah, him. I wonder what he's up to. He's like a big personality who had taken some time away from social media actually himself a couple years ago and was very public about that. And that was inspirational to me. And so he like had a story and I went and clicked because I haven't interacted with him obviously. And it was like immediately, these wellness gummies are so good. Here's my code. And I have nothing against affiliate marketing. I think in theory it's really cool and a great idea, but the way it's often worked with is just so disingenuous, and it felt so affronting and again, so artificial. And so in a little bit, I'm going to talk about how I've actually been kind of itching to go back and having like a little bit of FOMO. But that alone, that moment of getting back on and being like, oh God, this feels so weird, cured that FOMO for me. And I was like, yeah, I think this isn't the place for me anymore. So I've done 2 previous episodes on this topic. You can listen to these. I'll put a link in the description. But I figured this is a milestone that's worth sharing because it's a continuously evolving thing. The way I think about this experiment is always evolving, the way I think about social media. And I do get people asking quite often, like my clients in the treatment room or other estheticians, or people will just email me being like, I'm off of social media too. Like, this is so great. How's it going for you? So people ask, and so I figured I would just share. I guess I'll start with where I am with my business, why it feels like such a big deal to leave social media. And then I'll talk, personally, I'll talk about the pain points and the implications and the results that I'm seeing so far. So I'm an esthetician. I've been doing it for 20 years, 19 years actually. And I would say I'm successful as far as I've built a sustainable brick and mortar business where my books are full and scheduled out for months in advance. This is wonderful. I'm so grateful for this. I've had this current iteration of my business for 8 years. So it took me from about 2018 to I think the summer of 2022 to get booked out several months in advance, which to me is a marker of like, okay, I feel secure in this business's ability to sustain me. So that's my primary form of income. And I'm not a gal who likes or enjoys stagnancy. And so I'm actually working on pivoting the business model into primarily a larger ecosystem that's centered around like tending to your temple in this beautiful, sacred way. So this looks like online education with things like facial massage and lifestyle wellness, as well as my curated apothecary. And that offers skincare and body care that's based on my 20 years of expertise on ingredients and the way that they actually interact with the skin. So go check my website out. You can find the full apothecary, my education, all that stuff is there. Would love for you to support the podcast by shopping there. But this is the direction I'm setting my sail. So I say all this just to give you some insight of where my mind is and where does social media fit into this world. And I will say I was able to build my clientele from Instagram. I'm still getting new clients who say they found me on Instagram. So I want to acknowledge that. And also I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, another esthetician who more recently started her own business. And she was mentioning that she started posting regularly on Instagram, and doing that increased the amount of client bookings she was getting. So I just want to say, if you are a new business, I know I have a lot of estheticians who listen. I do think Instagram can be amazing for building a clientele. And also, it's not the only way. I will say, yes, I have gotten many clients from Instagram, but what truly built my business was doing excellent work and making the experience that which people can't help but gush to their friends about. That's always like every time I'm doing something, like that's the idea in the back of my mind. If I'm wanting to build something, make something that people want to gush about. And so, more than Instagram, my business has been built off of word of mouth. But to get those initial people in, yes, it was through Instagram. So I want to acknowledge that. And I've already talked about in a previous episode about why I started this experiment. It was partly the political climate. I was just crawling out of my skin. I almost felt like with every news cycle, people just felt to me like they were losing their humanity. And I don't want to go through the world thinking that, because I know that that's not true. But when you're scrolling through, seeing this stuff day in and day out, it shapes your reality. Professionally, I was also just not feeling lit up. I was feeling like it was this constant barrage of ego, and it just wasn't feeding me. It was making me feel the yucky yucks just more often than not. And like I said a little bit ago, my current update right now is I've been feeling a little bit of FOMO, like some of my ego creeping back in. And I've been really taking some time to examine this. More than anything, this experiment of leaving Instagram, especially as a content creator who's a small business owner, I tell you, like, own a business, and that is the best way to get to know yourself, because you have to look at every shadow that's in there. So I started this business for autonomy and for freedom. Like, that is really the reason that I don't go work for a boss. And I really don't like the feeling that I must do this thing in order to engage in business. It just defeats the idea of autonomy. And tied to this, I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not showing up and being witnessed. And because of that, I'm not relevant anymore. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me, feeling like I need to show up on Instagram in order to be relevant. And it's just like all these feelings of, oh my gosh, I don't have my ear to the ground anymore, so I don't know what's cool. I'm not keeping up with the hottest things in the industry. And again, this just all ties back into these feelings of relevance. And really at the bottom of it is like worthiness. And so I've been having to sit with all of these uncomfortable feelings. And I find it interesting, this pull to return. Like, what is this thing with its tentacles that's like, you need me? It just gives me the creeps when I think about it. I also think about when I was on Instagram, I didn't feel, and I didn't realize this at the time, but now that I'm away and creating in different ways, I can see that I didn't feel grounded and connected to my work like I do when I'm creating this podcast or writing my newsletter, which is like, oh, I love writing my newsletter so much. Writing articles for Substack or making YouTube videos. I was just instead subconsciously or maybe even consciously feeling like I needed to always prove myself. I've talked about how I always felt like I was being watched by my colleagues, like, oh, better position this in just the right way so no one is going to come for me or cancel me or think I'm not credible. And I recently got an email from a creator who I used to follow on Instagram, and it was her newsletter, and she was calling something out that another creator had said that was incorrect in her eyes or whatever. Um, she was calling out what was said on Instagram in her newsletter. And I read it and I was just like, whoa, this is that thing that I do not see in real life. I don't see this in other areas of the internet, this like peer policing and evaluation energy. And I'm sure it's present in other places, but like I don't see that on YouTube. I don't see it on Substack, but I am very careful about the way that I use Substack. I really only go in and read articles from people who I follow. I don't scroll through notes. I do not read like call out culture stuff. If somebody posts something like that, I'm like, not for me. So I really only see it on Instagram. And I feel like it's this reflex of the environment to call someone out and then try to position yourself as the more discerning one or the more educated one. And listen, I'm not saying I've never done this because I have, but being away from that culture for this amount of time, and I kind of forgot it was a thing, and then seeing it again shook me. I was just like, oh my gosh, I forgot. And what this does, this type of reflex and this culture that is so prevalent on Instagram, promotes self-censorship. And so what I actually feel from these long form content spaces is that it's more about actually sharing and less about positioning. And this isn't just my industry. I was laughing when I was putting the notes for this show together because I was remembering back when I was on Instagram, there was an account that I was following, and it was this girl teaching how to set up a micro bakery in your home. And she would bake and had this cute little stand in her yard. And then she started offering courses that shared how she set up her business to show other people how to do it. Well, let me tell you, the sourdough community of Instagram was up in arms because apparently some of them started looking into her and they decided she hadn't been doing it long enough to be charging the money to teach. And they started this whole campaign against her, informing the community not to purchase from her because she was scamming everyone. And then she was posting a rebuttal, like crying about it because she was like, I'm literally just sharing what I've learned along the way. And I don't know all of the ins and outs about Sourdough Bakery Gate, but what I do know is that I didn't always feel like I could just freely share because I was always thinking about who would try to tear down what I had to say. I just feel like it's a weird and mentally unhinged place. And if this is hitting true for you, there's a great book by Africa Brooke called The Third Perspective: Brave Expression in the Age of Intolerance. I absolutely loved that book. I adore her. So yeah, I'm having these feelings of maybe I should go back, but also it makes me a little bit sick to be in that again. And also, my business is continuing to grow outside of Instagram. I had my best revenue month in the e-commerce store ever in March, and April's on track for that too. And these aren't huge numbers. I'm not Gwyneth Paltrow yet, but it's the fact that it's growing without that distribution channel. And I no longer think it's a necessity. And so, if nothing else, I had a story that I told myself, and I now see it's not true. And I always love that for helping to rewire my brain for success. So, that's where we are in the business right now. As far as my personal relationship with social media, that part has been much less hard. I don't really feel a call to return because my social life has actually improved and my discernment of who I'm spending my time with and on has gotten much better. I feel like every single part of my personal life has improved. I'm not constantly in a low grade state of anxiety, so that's a plus. I think the thing about it that I really just don't miss and that I don't get with YouTube is that I was constantly exposed to content without my consent. On Instagram, you're not consciously going in and choosing the content that you want to watch. On YouTube, which, like I said, I turn shorts off, so I'm never watching short form video anywhere. I'm only choosing content that's allowing me to go in and consciously choose the article or the video, knowing what I'm signing up for. With whatever it may be, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Substack Notes, what's it called, Twitter or X, you're scrolling and you're just at the mercy of whatever has popped into other people's minds that they felt the need to share. And it's a gamble. It might be something really lovely, and it might be something that triggers or stresses you out. And I remember shortly before I left Instagram, there was this guy. He was a psychologist who reminded me exactly of Neil from the Santa Claus. And he was talking about how if you're easily triggered by social media, you should just get off because you can't handle it. And I think about that a lot because it's like, am I just exceptionally soft? But the thing is, these platforms are literally engineered to provoke you, to keep you on edge, to keep you scanning, to keep you then coming back. It's engineered like a slot machine. And so my takeaway from spending a lot of time thinking about that is no, actually, my boundary is that I don't want my emotional and energetic landscape hijacked voluntarily multiple times a day. Kind of like how I only eat food that I intentionally choose to consume. I'm not just like letting people force feed me whatever they've decided that I should eat. And the last thing I'll talk about is that I just feel like I've moved forward in life so much more in the last 6 months than I had in the last 4 years. And I really think it's because social media trains you to seek that quick hit of stimulation. And for me, at least now that I'm away from it, I see that it was a distraction from the things that are slower and take more effort. When you're constantly getting that immediate reward, it affects your impulse control, of course, and your brain's sensitivity to dopamine and what it considers rewarding changes. And this isn't just social media. This is like when you eat a ton of ultra processed foods and then you try to eat healthy food, it doesn't taste as good. But then when you eat healthy for a really long time, like you crave healthy, it tastes really good to you. And then ultra processed doesn't taste that good. I noticed this with a lot of like book talk style books that are engineered for high engagement. And it's like constant dopamine hits that keep you engaged. And it's not like reading other books that take a little more effort, but maybe you feel like a changed person after. So it's not, like I said, it's not just social media, but I feel like social media is such a huge driver in us subconsciously wanting that from life. And I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to be part of doing that to you. I know that it's obviously not individual creators. It's like this huge system, but I get to choose how I show up in the world. We all get to choose every single day how we are going to show up in this world. And this is one form of resistance that just feels very important to me. One thing that I've been doing instead of scrolling on social media at night is just like really locking in my nighttime wind down routine. In January, joined an Ayurvedic wellness program. It's a 2-year program. I don't know what I'm going to do with it after. I'm definitely going to be incorporating it into my work here. I already am in a big way. But I bought it as a gift to myself because I turned 40 in 1 month on May 28th. And Ayurveda is just all about being juicy for as long as possible and vibrant and all of the things. And it's just like true holistic wellness in my eyes. So with that, Ayurveda is really big into oils for down regulating the nervous system. Specifically, there is a practice of using oil in the ear because we have all of these vagal nerve branches in our ear, our auricular nerves. And when we put warm oil in the ears, it just like coats all of those nerve endings where they may be kind of crispy from like wind. We've got an opening in our ear. And so like wind and air and all the dryness, especially here in Colorado, is entering through there. And so that oil just kind of like coats everything and takes it down a level. I've been doing it in my treatment rooms with my clients, putting a little bit of warm oil on cotton balls and then putting it in their ear. This is a really good way to introduce. It's not the like traditional way. Traditionally, it would just get poured right into the ear. But I'm really liking it on the cotton ball and with it nice and warm and it just sits there. So I've been doing that at night. And if you're interested in this, if this sounds just as lovely to you as it does to me, you can head over to my website, look up ear oil and you'll find it. Or I'll also link it in the show notes because it's just like the best thing ever and the best for like calming anxious fried nerves, the best for helping you fall asleep faster and sleep better. So that's where we are now. I hope this episode has been delightful, maybe a little inspiring. If so, send me an email. I love hearing from people and connecting. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my newsletter. I'll be back soon, and until then, be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels @Stratum Aesthetics.